Hope everyone is well. Hope everyone is well. Hope everyone is well. We are starting off as we mean to go on. Happy Sunday, everyone. Wow. We have the wizard, Chris Hubbard, and then we have the best goalkeeper in Vets football, Gary, back on the show. How are you doing, guys?
Yeah, good, man. You?
Yes, I'm well. We're going to go straight into this. Chris, you played Leone Stars yesterday. Could you talk us through the game?
Yeah. So it's start of the season. So we had Leone Stars away from home. Yeah, it was a good game, tough game. They're gonna be a very tricky side for people. If they get their team out on a weekly basis, they'll be a good challenge for people. First half, they really gave us some trouble. They played really well. They moved the ball well. They had us on the back foot for a little bit. We couldn't get our game going, our rhythm. We couldn't play because they did a lot to stop us from doing it. We had to work really hard. We ended up going 1-0 down. Then we pulled it back to 1-0. Obviously, that finished. That then finished half time. Oh, they had a goal. Well, I didn't see it, but they were adamant that it went in. Obviously, I had to be the linesman, and me and one of their players were having a bit of a debate. When I was joking around with him, but then he was getting a bit debatable with me, and then they must have shot. But because me and him were talking, they were saying he went over the line, but I didn't notice it. So obviously the ref looked at me and I said, I'm not going to say yes or no. I'm not going to lie. I didn't see it. And then obviously they were like, you see. I'm like, I didn't. Because me and this other guy were like, he was talking to me about something. And then obviously the ref was like, he didn't see it. So they obviously didn't get the goal. But that was neither here or there. It was like, that was quite early on in the game. Then obviously went in at half time 1-1. We had our team talk, discuss what we need to do better. Then second half come, and I think one thing that will let them down is their fitness. That's one thing that went against them. So obviously a lot of our players are quite fit and stuff. So when we made a couple of changes, I came on, a couple of other people came on, and I think that was it. Like, we then sort of like upped it. We were able to play our game. We started dictating the game a bit more. We started getting behind their back line a lot more, and then obviously the game ended up finishing. I think it finished 6-2 to us. If I'm correct, we went 2-1 up. They then equalised to make it 2-2. I want to ask you a question. You're a ref, right? You do ref,
yes,
right?
yeah.
Once I'll quickly just ask you a question after. Went to 2-2, and then when it went to 2-2, we then kind of just pulled it back together, and we just went on to win the game. But again, I think their fitness kicked in. They kind of bickered between each other because obviously things weren't going their way. And then, we just ended up running out 6-2 winners. Obviously, I was lucky to get on the score sheet as well. So, good performance. Thank you, man. I think it was a good performance, like big shout out because this weekend, if anyone knows Holoton, Alan, who is a big founder and a big reason of why Holoton was founded, he's obviously our secretary's granddad and our goalkeeper. So the relation. So it was a big day for us to get the win. Like, just not only to start the season, but for him as well. Just to keep the legacy going and to show that we were trying to mean business this year. So it was a very, very, very good performance. So shout out to Big Al. He's dearly missed, but he's watching over us. And he's giving us a big nudge in the right direction to hopefully go on and do bits this season. My question to you quickly, T, is this handball situation. So how we conceded our second goal, right? Obviously, I got the ball. I went to pass the ball to my teammate. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I flicked it a little bit. But what's happened is their player, his hand is down. And because obviously he must have been in a position to sort of like jockey me. Mm-hmm. So I flicked it. It's hit his hand.
Yeah.
It fell to him. They've gone on and scored. So obviously we've said to the ref, I've said he's gained an advantage because it's going to my teammate, it's hit his hand, it's fell to him in an advantage way for him to now go on and score a goal. He's telling me the rules have changed and that if it's not deliberate, then it's not going to be a free kick. But obviously what we were saying was whether it's deliberate or not, he's changed direction of the ball because it was going. So, for example, if where my camera is, the ball was going in that direction, his hand stopped it and it made it stop where it was. So he's able to control it and go off. Is that right? Or
so the rules have changed now in terms of especially there was like a lot of confusion now. Now the rules have changed where if like someone's body shape is in an, I don't know, and again, it's down to the referee. If a player's body shape is in like a natural position and the ball hits the hand, it's not handball.
Okay, fair enough.
And it was just unfortunate that that player went on and, in that phase of play, Leonie Styles scores. But there's like just been a change of law because everyone now thinks that if the ball hits someone's hand or arm, it's handball. And if the rules didn't change, then yes, it would have been a handball. But then again, there'd have been I think people just want the game just to flow.
I hear that. I'm happy for that.
Referee wasn't correct.
No, I hear that. I'm happy for that. It's just for me, the fact that he's hit his hand and changed direction and he's gained an advantage. Being a footballer, someone that's playing, I thought it should be a handball because it's now taken away the advantage of what we had. If it gets past his hand, doesn't hit his hand and change direction, goes to my teammate, we're away. But it is what it is. Also, I'm not saying this in a way of like the ref was very good yesterday. You know what I mean? I thought it was a good ref. So shout out to the referee if he's watching or not. But I thought he was a good ref. He explained things. He was very nice. Like even me and him had a conversation about something when I was doing the line, and he was very approachable. So I must say, like he was a good ref yesterday. I must say it was enjoyable having him. So shout out to the ref, man.
Cool. Gary, were you playing yesterday or did you do your rounds?
No. I didn't do anything yesterday. You know what I mean? I care for mum. Me and my brother, we care for mum. That's the most important thing to me. So no, I didn't do anything except like rightfully look after my mother.
Yeah, man. Big up mums, man.
Yeah, bless you for that, Chris. What I was going to say to you, though, Chris, before I say it, for Alan, may his soul rest in eternal peace. Who do you think was man of the match
for
in
us?
Your Hollywood team? Yeah, from your point of view, who was man of the match for you?
Oh, that's a tough one, because I feel like it's a tough one to pick, if I'm honest, because everybody, I'm going to be honest, we don't get. Well, I feel we get the result, but I feel like we don't break them down and stuff. If the team that started in the first half don't do their job, do you know what I mean? So I think it's hard to pick. Well, if anything, I can give it to Andre because obviously Andre, our striker, he scored a hat trick. Do you know what I mean?
Did he?
So if we're gonna go off that, but as a whole team performance. If you look at the contrast of the first half to the second half, I think the fact that everybody in the whole team dug deep and, kept their cool, it was a bit of a frustrating game at first, but then kept our cool and ended up going to get the result. I think it was a solid team performance. I thought everybody was brilliant. Everyone played their part. The people that started, who came off, the people that went on, everyone played their part. And I think it just shows that one thing we do have is strength in depth at the moment. So, which is really pleasing to see. But if I have to give it to anyone, it will be definitely Andre, due to the fact that he scored a hat trick and he's deadly in front of goal, man. Very good player. Like it's good to actually play in the same team as him. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Hollerton are going to be one of the favourites.
Big up Andre.
Yeah.
Hold on to Greece. So I'm gonna have to tell you again not to interrupt. You're gonna let me finish.
I thought.
Oh God!
I thought you finished. But
don't worry. Go on.
But you know what? Now, now I can see.
Do your thing. Do you know what? You don't give people the opportunity to finish. See, you're just chatting over people. They don't
But he
work
does,
like that,
Gary.
brother.
But he does.
You
He's a
take Chris had his turn.
proper journalist, man.
You see what me and Chris done? We stopped because we didn't want to overtalk each other to Bruce. But you, because you're the host, you think you can just overtalk. Listen, we're big people out here, you know. Don't keep trying to overtalk people. Allow people to finish what they've got to say. As I was saying, Andre, flowers to you, brother. Hat-trick. Well done. Now you can go on.
Okay, thank you. So again, I'm gonna put
Frozen,
as like one of the favorites. LSU Masters as one of the favorites. Big shout to Leon Duss, who was, you know, again has joined John Hollerton. An amazing player, an amazing person. Honestly, it's going to be a very, very interesting season. Let me quickly go over the Catford game. I wasn't there, but like Catford beat LSU Masters 4-3 in a friendly. Again, it's just minutes in the bank, and again, it was kind of good just to kind of get some of the guys a bit of a run out. We had players missing. I'm not too sure if they had players missing, but again, shout out to LSU Masters. So yeah, again, 100%. I am kind of definitely content with how Catford are doing their business. Of course, I wasn't there yesterday, so you know I can't really talk too much about the game. Quickly, I'm gonna go over a game that I refereed today. It was Brockwell Violets versus Battersea Park Rangers. A really, really good game. It ended 2-2. Chris, it's quite funny when you were talking about the handball because something happened also in that game where one of the defenders handballed it in a box, and with the old rules, it like, would have been a penalty, but with the new rules that that have come in, I couldn't give it. There was a few contentious decisions, but I kind of explained exactly why I gave those decisions, i.e. the keeper came out of his box and handballed it. I gave him a yellow card because there was a defender that was literally going to cover him. Apart from that, the game was played in a really good spirit. Personally, again, I'm like looking to officiate a lot more on a Sunday. So big shout out to both teams. Big shout out as well to Ed, who I believe plays for Brockwell Violets, an amazing centre back, and he made some last ditch challenges. Well, not even just last ditch; he was just in the right place at the right time. So big shout out to the number 2, and big shout out to Tom, and big shout out to the 18 for Battersea Park. Cool. Gary, anything to say before I move on?
No, bro. I'm just, I didn't realize you were refereing today. I had no knowledge of that. You know what I mean? Obviously, you've added it, so now I do know.
Okay.
Cool. Quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Just to you, Quick T. How do you find being on the other side of the fence, reffing, compared to playing?
Completely different.
Also, when you're playing, how do you feel when certain decisions are given, knowing that you're a ref? I say that, so for example, little 2 questions in there.
Yeah.
How do you find the difference of being a ref to playing? And also, if you're playing a match, how do you feel when a decision is given and in your head you're kind of going, because you've got that experience of refereeing?
I think what players want is just transparency and respect. So when I'm refereeing, I kind of make it a point to speak to both teams before the game. And one thing that I say, and I'm like very open and honest about this, that I know that I'm public enemy number 1. Mm-hmm. So no matter what decision I give, someone will have an opinion about it. That's just how the game is. However, I'm going to treat you like a human being. Just treat me like a human being. We are here just to, play the game that we love. In terms of on the other side, I have kind of always been a player that will never come up to a referee and actually challenge his or her authority, because it's a hard job. You know, you are like managing 22 players plus like the coaching staff plus the supporters. It's a lot of pressure, honestly. Until you are in that position when like there's points at stake, or you know, if it's a cup round, people will never know the responsibility that you have. I always say that the first half is normally the easiest half. You know, it's kind of played in a very good like spirit. You know, people like to pass and move, etc. The second half, especially after 50 minutes, that is when you have to be on your mettle, because that's when the fitness goes. That is literally when bad passes happen. That's when the flying tackles happen. And then you literally have that, I'd say 3 or 4 seconds to literally make that decision. Have I blown previously too soon in other games? Yes. So I really make an effort to literally give myself that 3 seconds before blowing. And again, the only players that can speak to me is the captain and the vice captain. No one else can, you know, respectfully, because if I'm speaking to everyone, then the game will not finish. But again, it can be an enjoyable game if you start the game right, which is with respect. Do not go into a game thinking that you are high and mighty, because the players will literally wear you down, and any chink of armor, they will expose you.
Yeah.
So that's my thoughts about
okay. That's nice. It's nice to get your insight on being on both sides, isn't it? So
you know what? I've got a question. Tabrice, I've got a question for you. Have you made a mistake in a game and rightfully gone to the opponents and apologised?
100%.
Or is that something you as a ref don't think you need to do?
You know what? Everyone makes mistakes, and I have made two big mistakes. I gave someone a red card, which wasn't a red card, and I rescinded that, and literally I literally apologized. And then also as well, there was a kind of offside decision where I blew too early, and the person that was offside was not interfering with play, and then someone ran from deep, and literally I blew. Of course, you know, once you've blown, you can't take it back, and literally I profusely apologized. That's the only thing that you can do. It's again, I kind of, for me personally, I like to humanize myself. You know, literally, I don't think I'm better than any person on the pitch. I am. For me, I am a person that just wants to make sure everyone comes off healthy and happy as much as possible. I don't like when like games are like 40 or like high scoring games, because then it just becomes a bit of a farce. I like really close, contentious games, because again, you know, both teams are focused and both teams want to win. If I don't have to blow my whistle more than I'd say 9 times a half, then you know what, I think I've done a good job.
Okay, cool.
So literally, that's how I look at it.
No, okay, nice.
Cool, yeah. Well, let's kind of move on to the main topic, which is the mission to Burnley. It's a documentary, season 2. It came out in August, and we'll be talking about the first episode. And of course, Vincent Kompany has now moved to like Bayern, and Burnley are now in the Championship. So of course, you know, this is slightly outdated, but this is a new documentary that came out, and we'll be discussing episode 1. Chris, I'm going to start with you. And again, anyone
season 2, yeah.
Sorry, yes, season 2. Season 2, episode 1. And like anyone that's kind of watching this please feel free to put any questions in the comments. My kind of question to you, or my comment to you, Chris, first is, what are your thoughts on Vincent Kompany in the first episode of season 2?
Obviously, in the clips that I see of him, I thought he was all right, actually. Like you don't really get to see too much on a coaching aspect that I thought of. Like you get to see more of him as a person in a managerial role. Does that make sense? And I feel like he was very open, honest, approachable to the guys. You know, like I thought he dealt with certain situations, and I thought even though they started off like quite slowly within the season, like in that beginning of the season, he was quite positive with them, which was very refreshing to see. Because obviously, being in a position that you are, you know, you just got back into the Prem, and you know that it's going to be a difficult situation. But he was very positive. He always, you know, he explained himself quite well to the boys on how he felt and stuff. But then he tried his best to put a positive spin on it to keep their hopes up. You know what I mean? And to ensure that they're going to continue to give him the best for him. And I think that was quite refreshing to see. So I enjoyed watching him in that aspect because, you know, being a player and stuff, watching him now step in was very interesting. But yeah, I thought he did quite well, to be fair.
Gary?
Bruce, I'm going to be honest with you and Chris. It was coming in and out, and I didn't quite catch everything. The start of it, I don't even know what how you started the conversation, because I heard Chris a bit, heard you a bit, but it just broke up. So you'll have to tell me again who we actually talking about? What part of the Burnley thing are we talking about?
Yeah, so we are talking. I would love to get your comments and thoughts regarding Vincent Kompany as a coach, as a person, as a man.
Listen, it was all right. He done all right. I mean, he's tried with them and whatnot. But what I really didn't like, his coaching methods is good, but there keeps constant F this, F that. I don't think it's required. You know what I mean? There's better ways to get across to your players and things like that. As a player himself, he was superb and that, you know. But as a coach, yeah, he's done all right with Burnley. You know what I mean? All right, they got relegated in the end, which isn't really the ideal thing for a manager. But yeah, he done all right. I can say he done all right. But you know,
do you think that the language
that's all I can really say.
Yeah. So actually,
go on. Sorry.
Sorry. So actually, a question to both of you, but I'll start with Gary first. Do you think the use of language is probably how he can relate to a lot of the players?
You can relate to players without using that kind of language. I'm a believer that are individual curses when they have nothing more constructive in their mind to say. That's just my belief, yeah? He can get his points across without using the F word constantly. Maybe the odd one here and there. A player can understand that and understand that the manager, the coach or manager is a little bit frustrated, but it's just constant. There's no need for it. If he behaves like that in front of his first team and that, is he going to behave like that in front of the youth team? I don't think so. So if you're not going to behave like that in front of the youth team, then, you know what I mean, don't do it in front of the first team. That's how I look at it. You know, he'll have so many parents on his case. Why are you swearing in front of my child? Blah, blah, blah. So he knows the right from wrong there. So you should know the difference, my friend. He should. You know, it's just not needed.
Okay.
And as I've said it before, you know, there are better ways to get your point across to a player. You know, and I believe that the player will respect you even more because of the tone that you've used to get it across to him without swearing and that. I think you'll get more out of the player. A player can easily go in his shell, hearing you effing and blinding all the time. He could easily go in his shell.
Yeah. Hubs, what do you think?
I think it's something we spoke about before, like how how a coach or manager has to adapt how they deal with certain players in it. So I agree with Gary. Obviously, sometimes using them sort of words and languages is a bit too much. But sometimes it's quite weird. Football can be a weird thing. Some players need an arm around them. They can't handle the effing and blinding, and then some people take it to thrive. They thrive with that. You know what I mean? It's a catch-22 in it, and I think it's a difficult one because yes, like in that environment with no cameras on you, you kind of might not, depending on what's around, and obviously with certain situations, depending if you've got young youth players in there and stuff like that, you have to watch how you conduct yourself. But people will turn around and say it's the environment that they're in. But when you're having it being documented and it's going on TV, a lot of people are going to be watching it. So it's quite difficult because that's what we need to understand as well, is that we're filming people in their natural environment. And his natural environment is to be coaching, trying to get the best out of players. And if he sometimes comes across by using that language, that's just how he does it. Mm-hmm. But I do agree with Gary that there is better ways of verbalizing it to the players, and how we can do that. But people are different. People coach a certain way. People come across it in different ways. So that might just be his method. His method might just be for me to get it across. If they're not going to listen, I have to kind of be a little bit more loud and active with it than I usually would be. You know what I mean? So I think it's a bit 50-50. I'm a bit 50-50 with it because I've experienced both as a player. I've experienced both people that effing and blinded me, and I've experienced people that are a bit more blasé and pleasant around how they speak to you. So
yeah, I know. I totally agree with both of you, but like Gary, I'm leaning towards, because I think swearing can devalue what you're saying. And exactly what Gary said, if you've got nothing better to say, just don't say nothing, and I know it's kind of common. It's a common thing to say in our environment, but if like someone is not shouting at you, but like asking you to like do like something, if they're effing and blinding, sometimes as a human being you can just disengage, and it's just not conducive to the whole environment. And that's I don't know, it's a kind of catch 22. But again, exactly what both of you have said, if he's doing that in front of the academy players or in front of parents, then someone would have to pull him up on that. I wouldn't want him to be effing and blinding in front of my children or my nieces and nephews. It just doesn't sit right with me. So, one thing that I want to add regarding the Vincent Kompany conversation. So there was a part in it where he comes in after, I can't remember what game it was, and he says to the players, especially the new players, do not leave your Burnley shirt on the floor. That's a disrespect. People would love to be in your position. After the game, do not pull it on the floor. And like, for me, it just shows how much he kind of respects the game.
Yeah, when the Villa game.
I can't remember what game it was. But that's literally what he said, and literally that really kind of stood out for me. I don't know if you guys can remember that.
Yeah, I remember that part. Yeah, I remember that part. Which is, I get where it's coming from. Obviously,
I remember it as well.
Yeah, I get where it's coming from, but also it depends. Like, if that's the culture he's built, then obviously you got to stick to it, because you do have to value. They do have to value where they are in their position, because they are. If we're going to be honest, they're in a privileged position, and they're right. Like, people would give their right arm to be in their position, whether it's at Burnley or wherever it is. You know what I mean? People would give their right arm to be a professional footballer, and be able to do what they love every day. So yeah, I think they are kind of making right in that aspect. You got to appreciate where you are and appreciate your work tools, because in a way they're just their tools that they're using, their uniforms, so they've got to respect it, because you ain't going to just dash it on the floor knowing that someone else is going to pick it up. You know what I mean? Would you do that at your own house? Just dash your things on the floor knowing that someone else is going to come and pick it up? So, you know, like respect the uniform you're in, respect the club, respect the culture. So I think he was right in saying that. I'll make him right in that aspect.
Gary?
Yeah, he's right. But I mean, for the player, you know, we've all been there. You've either lost or drawn a game, and you've took off your top on throwing it on the floor, or thrown your boot on the floor. So for the player, in defence of the player, I don't think it was an intentional act. But
No.
that was good. It was a good thing that what Vincent Kompany said there. You know, he was right. There's supporters who would love this top. There are individuals who would love to be in your position as well. So that was nice. And it made the players rethink certain things. At that moment in time, they're rethinking things, you know, and it's only due to what their manager have just said to them.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, yeah, I'll give him credit for that. But the unnecessary swearing and that, no. Because, I mean, just imagine he came in there and started effing and blinding. You don't effing blinding with the top and that. So if he can use that normal tone to explain to his players that it's wrong to throw your top on the floor, then use that normal tone and the respectable tone to get your points across, whether it's tactics or whatever. You don't have to swear.
Very true. Very true. Let's go on to the second point, and I'll start with you, Gary. What are your thoughts of the Burnley owners?
Oh, I like him. Alan Pace, his name is. I like him. I like the way he interacts with not only the board and everything. He interacts with the staff, the fans, the opposing manager and everything. He seems like a bubbly character, and he's trying to do well within the club, and he's trying to bring them success at the same time as, you know, being the owner. He's trying to bring them success as well, you know. Some of the meetings and that he has to go to, and some of the other things that he has to do, he's under pressure. He's under a lot of pressure in that job. You can see it, you know. But yeah, I think he's a decent chairman, you know, and he'll do well with Burnley.
Chris?
I was a bit taken back by them taking over. Just in I was quite surprised in hearing what they do in their everyday life and all that. I was quite surprised, but it was also refreshing to see that they were coming in to help out and stuff like that, and wanting to be involved. And yeah, I think, like Gary said, it's quite nice to see that guy. Is it Alan? He's very invested. He looks like he's quite invested, and he spends a lot of time that he always speaks to the fans. You know, he always shows
Alan Pace,
yeah. So he's quite present quite a lot of the time. Like, he doesn't shy away from things. You can see that he's quite passionate. And one thing that I did like to see was, because if I'm correct, I know we're talking about season 2, but if I'm correct, I think he had there's something to do with Burnley. I think he's involved. He has like an involvement with the area from before, or something like that. I think he mentioned in season 1. So it's quite interesting to see that that's why he's quite invested in it so much. But yeah, I don't mind him. Like, he comes across like a very nice guy. He approaches and speaks to the players quite often, speaks to Vincent quite often in the episode. So yeah, it was refreshing to see. It's nice to see some owners that, you know, genuinely kind of want the best for the club and the community. So that was quite nice.
No, yeah, I think I think I'm going to stereotype here. So hey, like here's what it is. For me, it was really refreshing to see American owners that are realistic, that actually know, okay, you know what, we are here just to survive this season, rather than kind of going for the crazy glitz and glamour. You know, they like knew from the get-go what the Premier League was about. So like for me, that you know, that was a very interesting take for me.
Yeah, but that's also due to the fact that they don't have that financial backing, so they can't go into the Premier League thinking they can. They have to be realistic. Do you get what I mean? I do get what you're saying, but they've not got the financial backing compared to certain other American owners. So yeah, you're right, but in hindsight they have to be realistic because they've got no other choice.
Interesting. Let's go on to the third point, and Wizard, I will start with you. Thoughts on the transfer dealings and also the sponsorship opportunities in the episode.
Obviously, with the transfer dealings, exactly what I just said. They've got to know their limits, innit? They can't go spending millions and millions on players because they generally just don't have that. So it was very interesting to see an insight on how they go about looking for the players. So they do a lot of like stats and, you know, looking at where they're at, where the players are at and where they could be and what investment they're going to bring. Because if I'm correct, barring this episode, I think it was I can't remember if it was this episode or one of the other episodes, Vincent Kompany actually says, like, what you're doing is when you're investing in a player, you're kind of investing in what they can maybe bring to the club in the future, i.e. like sell on. So like if you buy like a decent young player and they do well, they might earn a bit of money for the club later on in down the line. So with a club like Burnley, I think that's something that they got to look at. You know, what they're investing in. Yes, you hope that they become good or they come good for you while they're there. But at the same time, if they do come good and you don't survive, what can you get back from them being there as a sell-on clause? Do you know what I mean? So the way they did their dealings was quite good. They brought in quite a lot of young players, but I think some of them were quite good players. You know, I think when you look at the way they played, they actually played half decent football. But it's for them to go toe to toe to established Premier League teams. It's quite difficult. And to go with the sponsor, I kind of agreed with what one of the fans said. Like, again, it's a bit of a catch-22. So I agree with what the fan was saying about it being a betting thing, because if I'm correct, the year before they didn't have it on there, and they said, you know, we're not going to go down that route and whatever. And then obviously that next season when they got promoted, they then went back and had it on there. And you know, like the owners obviously said to them, we're going to try and go and have like a betting free shirt that doesn't have it on there and stuff like that. And the fans kind of were rightly upset about that because they were like, you've told us this and now you've gone backwards. But then like the owner said, it's a bit difficult. The best way for me to bring an income into the club is by putting that on there. He goes, for someone who was, you know, reluctantly wanted to do it, it's either I put that on there or I'll go and sell one of our brightest players that, you know what I mean, so early. And then they were like, okay, we kind of get where you're coming from. So again, it's a bit of a catch-22 because yes, having it on there and publicising, betting, knowing that it can be a bit of an illness to certain people, their hands were tied because they needed to bring an income into the club to help them stabilise a little bit. So they had to do it. But yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Like it's for me to have an opinion on it, it's a bit hard because I'm not in that situation. So,
Gary?
with like I said, the betting side of it, I don't think no team should have any form of betting sponsorship. Chris has highlighted it already. There's people out there who have betting addictions and things like that, even players, you know. So no betting. There's other ways. There are other companies that you can be approached. Maybe a paint company like Crowns, like what Liverpool used to have, Crown on their top and things like that. Arsenal, JVC. So there are companies that, you know, I mean, can be approached. They could approach them, and see if they could get themselves a sponsorship. With all this, from what I saw from that show, the person who I thought who had the biggest job was that Matt Williams, that chief operating officer. I thought he had a big job. And you know what I mean? He's a family man with 2 young kids, and to hear how he was speaking about, oh, I have to take my kids, and then my kids will say to me, oh, Daddy, did we buy a player today? And did we, you know what I mean? To hear him speak like that, and he's juggling parenthood with the fact that he's the chief operating officer at Burnley Football Club. And most of the transfers go through him, you know. So I think he's, from what I saw from the program, he's the one who's got the big role when it comes to transfers and things like that. Him, and I also think that that chief data scientist as well. He was quality.
Yeah, he was good. The one.
He was.
Yeah,
he was quality. Yeah. I feel what's Lee Mooney, I think his name was.
Mooney.
He was quality. You know, some of the information he was giving, I thought, wow, you know, with regards to like the data science of the sport, it was really good. Them two right there. I think the transfers. I mean, okay, Vincent Kompany can easily say, okay, I want Chris the Wizard Hubbard. Yeah. But it goes through like the chief data scientist, and like the other gentleman who I just mentioned, the director of operating director of operating officer, whatever his name is. Yeah, they're the ones what really makes it tick.
Yeah,
so true. I mean, yeah, you know, I mean, I totally agree in terms of what both of you have actually said. I think for me, I didn't realize how much data these clubs have before they even look at a particular player as a kind of potential employee. And again, it's, you know, it's data driven. It's you know, it's crazy in terms of the stats that they have. And again, I'm kind of probably going a little bit off topic, but do you think because it's so data heavy that we've lost like the magic of football now? You know, everything's about data and strategy and like formations, etc. Do you think we've lost like the magic of a Zidane and R9, a Kaka?
A little bit. I agree. Yeah, it's rare that you kind of now see someone that can just light up a game like that. A lot of it is very tactical, but again, it's how football's evolving, isn't it? And, you know, some people have to be tactical so they don't lose games. You know, some people have to be tactical because you might see something happen, so you have to have that little tactical now so you can change it so you can go and win a game. You know what I mean? It's just how football's going nowadays. But I agree. I think the sparks of having someone who can just turn the game on their head is very rare. I think for me, I wouldn't say we've lost it completely, but I just think that certain players are having it coached out of them. So there is loads of players that have that rare flair and stuff like that, but sometimes when they get into the first team, it kind of gets coached out of them because of depending on what position they're in or, you know, the manager that they have.
Gary?
You know what? The good old days of just turning up to a game and seeing a player and saying he's good, he's gone because of this data. you can just look on a computer and work it out from that. And this, I suppose, it's the modern day moving with the time and that, but the good old days for me where you could just stand on the sideline and watch a good player is over. And like I said, it's all because of this science, data science or sports science, whichever way you want to look at it. You know, I always say bring back the good old days. Spot an individual, go away, talk to your man, talk to the manager about it and say, listen, I think he's got some talent there. I think you should bring him in and give him a try and have a look at him. That's what I know anyway.
So can we go? I just want to go back to the betting thing. Like I'm like you said about the different sponsors, Gary. I'm totally with it. But what the one thing we're always going to lose out on to these people is that these betting people that have the sponsors that we'll put on the shirt, they're going to double what these other companies that you spoke about are going to offer. Do you know what I mean? This is the issue we're having. So certain clubs like a Burnley, who are not going to have a massive financial backing, are going to have to go down that route of having someone like that on their shirt because they know that financially that's going to give them that little bit of boost that they need. But I'm spot on with you there. I think worst case, don't have a sponsor on the front of your shirt if that's the case. But the issue we're having is that the money that these people are offering, these clubs are always going to go with it unless these clubs have like great financial backing or very, very strong values. They're always going to take it. Remember, football's a business now, man. It's a money orientated, money driven thing. So little things 100. Like that's always going to take. It's always going to take over. It's always going to take precedent in it. So
yeah, very true. And before we go on to like the next point, there was a quick scene. Actually, there was like two interesting points when I think it was the board members that were talking, and literally someone said to the chief operator, "What players do we need?" And the chief operator said, "We need men."
Yeah.
So,
that was what game was that after? It was after the first or second game.
Could have been a second game.
Because they brought a lot of youngsters in there.
Yeah, they brought like a lot of youngsters, and I remember he like said we need men, which is very telling. And again, exactly what Gary said. He's like very astute, like yes, he's a family man. He's like he's got his kids, but he like even said when I'm on holiday, like Burnley are
annoyed
when I'm not answering my phone. And then when I do answer my phone, my wife is pissed off with me. So like he's kind of caught in a catch-22, but like he like knows that he's got to try and do right by Burnley, but of course not sacrificing too much of his time that he's going to miss, vital memories with his family. I mean, it's a very, very hard job. And again, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Burnley were looking to ask Man City if they could loan Cole Palmer before Chelsea came in, right?
Yeah. Well, they were waiting to see what was happening.
Yeah. So So literally, that was a very interesting conversation there. If Chelsea didn't actually put in that bid, Cole Palmer could have been playing for Burnley that season.
Well, not necessarily, because remember they had Matson. They had Matson go there the season before. They went in for him again, and he turned around and said, "No, I want to stay at what's it called, Chelsea." But what you got to remember is Cole Palmer actually asked to leave City. Remember, because Pep basically said, like, obviously, no, it was the other way around. Was it City wanted to get rid of him, but he wanted to stay? Sorry, it's the wrong way around. He obviously wanted to stay and wanted to get rid of him, but remember, he's got to look at what's going to benefit him.
Yeah. And
I personally couldn't have seen him going to whether he played alongside or spent time with Kompany when Kompany was at City. For me, with the sort of player and the sort of maybe levels that he has within himself, I couldn't personally see him going to Burnley. I don't think it would have benefited him.
No,
Gary?
no, Chris is right. How does it benefit him? It's not going to benefit him at all. Me personally, for Cole Palmer, if I was him and they did approach me, I would just say no. I'd rather wait my opportunity and try and get into the first team at Chelsea. I mean, at Man City rather. But like Chris was saying, he wanted to leave. He wanted.
No, I think he wanted to stay. I think he wanted to stay. I think City wanted to do it. If I'm correct, I think it was one of
Sure. I mean, I thought it was the other way round, that he wanted regular football and hence why they sold him. Because that's what I was led to believe.
I thought he wanted to stay, but Pep was like, "No, go out on loan," and then he was just like, "Nah," and then it was like I think it was either I stay. If I'm correct, if anyone's watching, he might be able to correct me in the comments or whatever. But I swear it was he wanted to stay, and City said no, we want to loan you out. Then he turned around and said, "Well, I'm not being loaned out. You either sell me, or I stay here." And I think that's how he ended up going to Chelsea.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure myself. To be fair, but again, it's kind of very interesting to actually see exactly what Burnley were like trying to do. So
listen, they were trying to go in the right direction. I just feel like going for someone like, because if you look at a lot of their players, they all come from like Belgium and stuff like that. So to go for someone like him at City, okay, I know he's young and I know he wasn't playing much football, but I feel like they're reaching a little bit in that aspect. Because if you look at Palmer, okay, Palmer didn't play much football. What everyone knew about Palmer. Palmer could have gone to any other club in that top half of the table. Just off of reputation of loan of what he's done at City so far. I believe he could have gone to any other club, and I don't think Burnley would have been a good stepping stone for him. Because I don't think playing there, fighting a relegation battle would have been a bit mad. But that's just my opinion.
Let's move on to the next point, and I'm going to start with you, Gary. Thoughts on, is it Lyle? Is it Lyle Foster?
Yeah.
Lyle Foster.
And Gary, I will literally start with you.
What is it you're asking me about, Lyle Foster? You just said Lyle Foster. What is it you're asking me?
Yeah, so I would love to get your thoughts about the episode that you saw with Lyle.
With him. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know, I tip my hat to him to come out and say that he's got mental health problems and he's, in dark places and that alone, it takes courage. It's not anyone you want us to express yourself to and tell about that. And that's another thing with him. He's talked about it, and there was, after a game, Vincent Kompany came in and said something to him, and in my opinion it was wrong, because you could see the expression on his face. He weren't too happy with regards to it, and it could have sent him over the edge. It really could. I think they came in and he said, "Look, I know something like you've got your issue, blah blah blah. I'm not trying to be funny with you, but you have to take that shot on." Something of that description, he said. And the player, you could just see, just went within himself, But he's passionate. He wants to do well for the team. I saw that in the documentary. You can see that he wants to do well for the team. And that, but he's just having issues with certain mental health issues, and unfortunately, these sort of things happen, whether it's football or everyday walk of life. Some people, go through these unfortunate episodes. I'll just leave it like that. They go through these unfortunate episodes. But obviously he was getting the right support from what I saw through Burnley. They were giving him the right support. And yeah, it was good to see that he's responding to it as well. He's responding to the support as well, because he's got the main thing, he's got the support of his players. And that is something that's really, really important for someone who may have mental health issues or might have family issues. It's nice to have an individual that you can actually talk to. Doesn't necessarily have to be the captain or the vice captain. It could, I mean, you find comfort in some of the strangest places. Yeah. Me and Chris could hate each other, but Chris has come to comfort me, and I find comfort through what. Yeah. So, and these things do happen. But he, you know, for a young man of his age, and I just hope that, you know, he's overcome those so-called demons, and he's going to now excel and be the footballer he's, you know, he wants to be and should be.
Chris?
No, I feel like obviously he opened up and explained he obviously weren't handling things well. He wanted to go home and stuff like that. And then obviously Vincent obviously spoke to him, and you know, Vincent being a player that's played at the highest level, you know, he's obviously experienced other people doing it. So he was able to give him the advice and the support that he needed, which helped him, which was nice and refreshing to see. And obviously you can see that Lyle was obviously found things difficult, but you can just see the impact that Vincent and the club had on him with the comments that he was making. It's a bit weird, because obviously when, if I'm correct, it was when he elbowed the player in the Forest. Was it the Forest game? Elbowed someone in the Forest game, and that's when Kompany obviously mentioned it. Said obviously, you know, you have emotions, how we manage them and stuff like that. But I don't know if it was the way they edited it or if he did take offence to it. But he obviously, after Vincent mentioned it to the other players, and obviously he then, in the next clip, it was Lyle explaining how he appreciates the gaffer and what the gaffer's done for him. He'll fight for the gaffer, do anything for the gaffer. So it was a bit weird, because obviously his face, it's really difficult to kind of get how they clip things and stuff like that. Like, you know, like Gary said, he could have took offence to it, but the way that they edited it, it looked like he was happy that it was out, which he did say. He said, it made me feel a bit better because my teammates know now, and I can kind of feel at ease a little bit, because to him it was like he didn't have to hide it anymore. You know what I mean? So it's a bit difficult, but yeah, like I feel like Gary said, I think the way that the club, and more so Vincent and that, dealt with him was very refreshing, because, you know, I think they did mention early in the episode about him, he could struggle. They did say before he even came, whether it's the editing, it kind of linked into everything, because he said, the Mooney guy turned around and said, you know, he could struggle because it's going to be one of the first times that he's getting a lot of information, a lot of tactical stuff, and, you know, they expect a lot from him. And they said that when he come, he could find things very difficult. And then lo and behold, the next bit along was him saying how he was struggling and, you know, mental health and everything like that. And listen, I take my hat off to him. It takes a lot for people to open up about it, and especially in that environment and playing at the top level. So, you know, respect to him. You know, honestly, it's very impressive to see. But they kind of, not saying that they knew that he was going to have them issues, but they kind of already preempted that he would find things a little bit more harder than playing in the league that he was at originally in Belgium. But yeah, I think, like I said, they dealt with it really well. Vincent, I was very impressed with how Kompany dealt with it. Very, very impressed. Like he was very supportive, and, you know, he done really well with that. So yeah, big up to them, man.
Yeah, you know, I mean, there's nothing for me to add really. Like, you guys have kind of covered everything that I was even going to talk about. I think it's I don't want to say refreshing, because I think refreshing is a very disrespectful way, but now for like men in kind of very high powered situations, and we all think that money can actually mask someone's unhappiness, but it just proves that every single individual have they all have their own not only triggers, traumas, but kind of also their in terms of how they kind of communicate and literally what kind of makes them tick, and like for him to kind of openly talk about something like this, it's like it's just amazing, because I know in our generation, when literally we were in our teens and like early like 20s, it's just something that we just wouldn't even contemplate about talking about. We wouldn't even talk to our friends about it, never mind your like teammate. So I've got to commend him, and I just hope everything's going like well for him. Anything else for you guys to actually say?
No.
Okay, cool. Fellas, we have finished this show, and we are bang on 1 hour. Before we go, I just want to say for like next week we have the guys from Kompany coming on. It was a very entertaining conversation, wasn't it, Gary?
Wait for next week. That's all I'm saying. Just wait.
Good episode.
Oh, there. No, it was again, shout out to Kevin and to James, and again shout out to Gary and like Chris that literally made themselves available to actually come back to the studio. We have to do a lot more of the studio conversations. They just hit differently, 100%.
Yeah,
isn't it right, Gary?
No, they do. It's just
I'm not saying anything. No, I'm not saying anything.
No, it is. It's good. It is good. Like I think it's a different perspective, and I think being able to sit in person and have conversations like this is good. But being able to actually physically be in the same room with someone, and talk and chat, and it's just like being around your mates. It's like just sitting around having a drink and having a chat. Like it feels more realistic. Not like this ain't realistic, but I just feel like that comes across a lot more professional, and like people can relate to it a little bit better. So yeah, no, I like it, man. The studio ones are really good.
Good atmosphere. Yeah, it's good atmosphere. It's a good atmosphere, especially when we can rib you. Flipping hell. It's a perfect atmosphere. Ribbing you, keep ribbing you. Listen, I'm telling you, you need to. Please, I'm glad you didn't say it today. So that's why, as you can see, both Chris and I, we're being polite to you today because you've not said you're the best centre half in grassroots football. So we can now be polite. But when you start that, we will rightfully rib you. Yeah? So don't say it no more because you're doing well.
But I feel if I keep on saying it, it's it's gonna cheapen my actual ability. So that's why that's the reason why I'm kind of saying it to you, Gary. That's why I keep saying you're the best goalkeeper in Vets football.
No, I don't need you to keep saying that to me. You speak for yourself. You don't need to speak for me. You know what I mean? When you can play and goal, at my age, when you can play and goal as good as me, it's hard to be humble. So you don't need to speak for me no more. You speak for yourself. In fact, viewers, do you think Fabrice is the best centre half? Leave a comment in the box below, please.
And that's a great way to end the show. Big shout out to Gary. Big shout out to the Wizard. Watch out for the show next week with the guys from Kompany. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week.